Happy National Thanksgiving Recovery Day. It is the day after, and oof, the tryptophan is still tripping a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. But anyhow, welcome back to Athletics LLC, everyone. We can't even say anything without just jump cutting to it. Sir Lucious, hello, sir, hello.
Howdy, howdy.
Welcome back. How are you this fine day?
I'm well. A great Thanksgiving day with family and friends, and I didn't eat a whole lot of substance, but the desserts were just
The
yeah,
gluttony. The
yeah,
gluttony was there.
yes. The desserts
Well,
were too good to pass up. So
Par
what was your
excellence.
favorite? What was your
my go-to is
hit?
always the pound cake. I mean, that's yeah.
Mm,
The
with
way
ice
you
cream or without ice cream?
no ice cream this time, but I was getting ready to say if you the way to my heart, it's a good pound cake with some ice cream, and I'm good. I'm good.
Noted. Clyde, how are you today, sir?
I'm packing. I'm pissed.
Exclamation mark. Oh, 21 days still hockey season. Oh,
Gotta stay protected. I feel like there's going to be a lot of things flying around today, so I
that's
just
what
wanted to
she
make sure that
said.
I was good. That is what she said, and what he should say.
Oh my goodness. Governor, save us.
Oh boy. I am we just had our session, our voluntary session this morning. So had about half the crew show up, which is better than most years. So I'm pretty
There you
good.
go.
It's
Love
always
it.
that same conversation. Are we taking 4 days off, or I mean, what are we doing here? So,
Hmm.
but it was good. We're in a good
Nice.
place.
Nice.
Awesome.
And it's actually winter-esque in our parts. So
Oh,
it's beautiful.
really?
Well, oh, is it not in yours?
The high today will be 59.
Yeah,
Yes,
So,
same here. Same here.
a little
yeah,
warmer.
yeah,
So
That's winter.
anyhow, I know, winter in
yes,
Texas.
yes.
Well, it is
Every
currently 42 degrees here in Gainesville. So
Huh?
Whoa.
Hold
no,
up,
I
what?
made I made that up. Maybe hold on a second.
Oh, okay, okay.
57. I'm sorry, 57. It's going to be
Okay.
42 maybe later, but yeah,
Yeah, we don't
All
we
of
don't
us
have
were
we
like, oh
don't
my
do we
God.
don't have cold weather on this show.
Mm-mm.
it's 50. It's
No.
57 and raining currently. So
Oh, boo.
yeah,
All right.
it's
Well,
going to get in the 40s tonight. That's what I read. Sorry.
oh, that's freezing. Um, well, we've got Sir Lucius here. We've got to pick his brain because he's the one we've not heard from yet in regards to the new legislation that the NCAA has set forth. So obviously there's three pillars of it, or two and a half ish. Um, so I'll let you I'll let you dive into the pool that you want to dive
Well,
in first.
I don't really have a pool. Are there specific questions you guys want me to answer that you're curious about my opinion on? I mean, I could probably talk for 2 hours about it if you wanted me to, but I don't want to. But
Mm-hmm.
The audience just said yes.
you
So, but we'll condense it. We'll condense it in. Um, let's start off with the little carrot and do the roster max scholarship
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah, well, I think that the thing that the way I view it, I think it's a good thing because now we have more money as far as scholarships, which is what everybody's been asking for. And I know that everybody's not going to get more scholarship money, but for those of us who fortunate enough to get it, it's a great thing. The roster situation is a different, whole different avenue because I think that now you have to really, think about as a head coach, it's got to be about roster management. And if you're going to continue to have developmental athletes, then where do they fall within that roster? Do you save a certain percentage of your roster for developmental athletes? Again, I think that's dependent upon how many scholarships you're getting. But I think that what this is going to lead to being strategic as a CEO of your company basically is what's going to which is what's going to come to the forefront now. The people that manage their rosters and their money the best will continue to be successful. That's the way I see it.
Now, just so I'm clear, the roster caps are the same per gender, right? 45 and 45?
Depending of that's the NCAA put that out there, but they're different within each conference. Like our conference,
Okay.
I think at the NCAA level, as far as what they're concerned, is 40. So you can have up to 45 and up to 17.
Mm-hmm.
Within our conference on the women's side, it's 45 and 17. The men is 35 and 10. I've heard that there's a couple other conferences that are considering only having 8 for men's cross country, which, yeah, that
But
could be very interesting.
to be clear, and not necessarily for us, but for the larger audience that we do have, when the SEC stepped out and said 45 and 35, those numbers are relative to the scholarship cutoffs, not the roster. You can have
No.
45 men on your track and field program.
No, you
You
cannot.
may not. Okay.
You may not. So,
So
the way it is, okay, so you got a roster of 35 for track and field and 10 for cross country.
Yes.
But understand that anybody that does cross country and track and field counts towards the track and field roster.
Of
So
course.
if you put all 10 of your cross country athletes on your track roster, you've only got 25 track only athletes that you can participate.
So that is a very clarifying and distinct SEC specific point, because a lot of the other conferences, I'll use ours as an example, in the Mountain West, there's no universe where the Mountain West is going to sign off on 45 and 45. They're not probably going to sign off on 45 and 35. But the conversations that we have been aware of are whatever they decide on the scholarship limitations, the 45 and 45 will hold as roster spots.
Yes, that is a universal rule. The roster spots are the same no matter how many. Okay, so if you're just going by the NCAA regs, right? The roster limitations are the same. Like you can't say a conference can't vote to have 55 roster spots.
Correct.
The
They
roster
can't
spots
go
are
up.
45. Exactly. 45 and 17 are the max you can have.
But you're saying that the SEC on the men's side is
30.
ignoring
35.
the NCAA, and they're saying you cannot have more than 35 men.
35 and 10. So, and I would imagine most of the big conferences are going to go that way because regardless of what the NCAA says, there's still the Title IX issue, the gender equity
Yeah.
issue, right? And you still have to account for football, which now has 105 scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's no way on any campus that, I shouldn't say no way, but I find it hard to believe on the bigger campuses that you're going to give 45 and 45. You're going to have that distinction to try to make the numbers equal somehow.
I think go ahead.
No, you got it.
All I was going to say is just really quickly, like I think what the general public, the parents, the club coaches and such really need to hone in on, right? Because all they hear is more money. These
Correct.
schools now have more money. If I have kid X and they're this good, they should be getting a full. They're going to get a full somewhere. But what you need to understand is this. The average roster spots, the average roster across the country on the men's side was bigger than 35. And the average roster across the country in cross country was bigger than 10. And you could double count without penalty before. So what people need to understand is that there is more money, but there are fewer actual jobs than there were before. That is the part that people are not honing in on.
Well, I think that is almost perfectly stated, and you know, with the return of Sir Lucious, we can return to lingo and language that we use. First world problems. Lucious and his new complication of first world problems. The only thing I think you got a little wrong there, and I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I'd bet a healthy salary on it. There's actually less money. There's more money in the SEC. There will be more money in the Big Ten. There might even be more money in the Big 12. But in Division I, there will be less scholarship money available because the majority are not only going to be able to hit 45 and 35. No. The majority are now dealing with the reality of less than 12. Less.
Yeah,
Because you have to
I'm going to
balance
give
it
you
out.
some very, very sound advice. Don't bet your salary you're going to be broke.
Mhm.
Because, okay, so let's just say within the SEC, based on the other conferences, right? So most of the people in our conferences are getting small or significant raises, right?
Yes.
Very few schools across the board are cutting like down a lot. Most of them are getting, like you talk to the Big 12, the Big 10, the even the the smaller, they're going to either stay where they are or get a small bump. Like
Mhm.
very few schools have said they're getting cuts. Most people are giving the status quo, and a couple of schools are getting just a little bit more. And I've only heard of like 3 schools that are making cuts in men's track and field. So don't
Okay.
bet your salary on that.
Well, so then at some point we could attempt to play with it now or do it in the future on another show. At some point, the people who are saying that and defending that idea and thinking that way, you have to solve the money equation for me because it actually doesn't make any sense. Like literally dollars and cents. Every conference in America has certain sports in it that by conference law must be fully funded. At no conference in America is track and field one of those sports. That's just a fact. So, if the Big 12 says that in the Big 12, football, both basketballs, volleyball, and women's soccer, I'm just making this up, have to be fully funded, but the other sports can exist not fully funded, and all of those sports got massive scholarship increases. How do you pay for it if not to take scholarship money away from the other sports?
Well, I don't think anybody knows the question to all that. But at
But
the end of
but
the
but
day,
but that's the math of it.
okay, but here's the math of it. Here's the reality of it. I hear what you're saying, but if everybody's being told that you're getting a scholarship increase, if everybody's being told that you're not getting reduced by a great number, then clearly the money's there. The 80s wouldn't be promising it, right?
And all I'm saying is that
Right.
in the P4, in the first world, in the rich people land, that reality probably will hold. Not everybody's going to get the full 45 scholarships. Not everybody's going to get the full 35 on the men. But within the P4, we know for a fact that there are programs who used to be at 12 and a half that are now coming down. And
Very few.
I'm telling you, in the G5 and below, oh, that's happening all over the place. It's going down. So if you look at Division 1 as a whole, not P4, just D1, at the end of the day, there will be less scholarship money available. There'll be more of it in the power conferences. And for the people who get recruited
Well,
by those
let's see.
people and have
I'm
opportunities,
not
that's
going to
great.
disagree with you that there'll be less money in the subdivisions, right?
That's all.
So let's we'll just use Florida and we'll use San Jose State. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The only way that what I'm getting totally axes out what you're getting is if they take away men's track and field completely.
I disagree.
You
Hold
can't
on.
disagree.
No, we can run that. So without getting too far into details that we probably can't talk about publicly, a year ago, Florida and San Jose State were on paper playing the same game. Now, Florida has a bunch of advantages that we will never have, of course. But when you sit down and when I sit down to build our rosters, we're still playing with the same 12.6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as of 4 months ago, you get 35 and 45, and I get the equivalent of 5.2 and 9.2.
Okay, but see that. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is this. Okay, so we're gonna pretend that Florida got 24, right?
Okay.
Right. So if Florida got 24 and they took away 6 from you, right? That's different. But if you're not the norm, right? Most of them are staying at 12. So if you take a school that stays at 12, let me finish. Right.
Yeah.
If school X stays at 12 the school Y gets 12, there's no. Now we got more money, but it didn't take money away from you.
Sure, and obviously, so people don't get confused. We're not saying that Florida took our money. Like that's not.
No,
what
no, no.
happened.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying Florida. I'm just saying. But
Yeah.
here's what. Let me just explain it to you like this. Okay, so the issue that everybody has is we want to compare apples and oranges and grapes and bananas. When if you're a grape, be a grape. If you're a banana, be a banana. Right. So you have to dive into this based on what you have, because if you're telling me you have 5.5, you have 5.5 no matter what I have. So when I had 12.6, you were gonna have 5.5 anyway, right? That happened before all this went down.
No, wait a minute, but no,
Okay.
That's the distinction. That's
Okay.
the
Well, all right. Okay, so I'm wrong on that, but let me say this.
right.
Okay, so
that's what I'm saying.
What you have to do is then you have to figure out how to operate within your 5.5. That's all you can do. Right.
We all have to deal with reality.
So I think that the biggest thing you have to do is, and I'm gonna let you guys in my boardroom, so to speak, right? If as a track and field head coach, you're a CEO, and in my opinion, you've got 4 companies below you, right? You got your jumps company, your throws company, your distance company, and your sprint and hurdles company, right? So you have to, with your whatever your number is, for me, I've got to take those numbers and feed those 4 companies.
Yeah.
Within those 4 companies, and we have to feed the subsidiaries that are 22 others, right? So the question becomes is, as a head coach of all of this, you have to be cognizant enough to not throw all your money in one area. You have to be cognizant enough not to be overzealous in your spending in the first year. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to roster management. So if you're going to go out and sign a roster of 35 people this year, now it's not about whether you have the money to recruit. Okay, let's say I got 35 on the minute, right? And I go out and fill my roster, but I still have 10 scholarships left, right? But I only lose 2 people next year.
Right. Doesn't
Right.
matter.
So it doesn't matter. Right. So that's the whole thing everybody has to look at here. I mean, this inequity stuff, that's been there. It's not going away. It is what it is. But within the P4, which is the world I live in, right? Like everybody's got the same issue. In my opinion, you're the CEO of your company and your companies, and you have to fill out from what you're getting how to fund those. Because if my idea came to me and said, you're not getting all of this, then you figure out how to be relevant with what you have. And I know what your numbers, that's unfair. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to leave it alone. Okay. But if you're a P4 school and you're still getting 18, okay. If you're a P4 school and just say, okay, well, my ID said I get 18 men and Florida gets 35. There's not 35 athletes that I see I need to give a full scholarship to.
Oh,
the thing that nobody's thinking about here is the talent pool didn't get bigger. You just have more money. And you also have less roster spaces. Mm-hmm. So the days of having a roster of 60 people are done. The days of having a roster of 50 people are done. So yeah, you might have 35 and 45, but the ability to spend that much money versus being able to spend that much money are 2 different things. And again, if you're going to be overzealous and go out and fill your roster this year, right? What are you going to do a year from now?
Yep.
Go ahead and fill it up. And what are you going to do for a year from now?
No, that's why I liked hockey season's less jobs analogy. I just think I know mathematically the Division I pool of salaries to pay those jobs holistically is smaller. Just is. Now trust me. If I had 12.6 and the governor, my AD, came and said, "Hey man, listen, damn that 45, you got 18." I'm not gonna say a mumbling word. I'm gonna do a little jig back to my office and smile.
That's right.
I'm yes, sir.
Absolutely.
But that won't be the majority. And yeah, no, I'm here for that.
So another thing that's causing this that really, I don't know how many people are looking at it, is the fact that baseball is tripling the amount of scholarships Now, they're coming down on their roster, but they're tripling the amount of scholarships. Now, how many programs are going to give? Go ahead.
They only came down on their roster from 35 to 34.
Okay, all right, by one. Okay,
By one.
so
There's no change there.
So here's the thing, and to Sir Lucious's point, does baseball now think that all of those position players have to be on scholarship?
How many scholarships does baseball have?
They're going to get
currently
34.
11.7, and they're going to 34.
34.
There you go.
34
For the schools that can afford it.
And in fairness to baseball, they should give them 60. Yeah, because baseball players have been like sacrificing their lives to go to school forever.
Absolutely.
Forever.
Yes, they have.
Like 11.7, you can play 9 people.
Yeah.
And you got to have backups and backups. Right?
Absolutely.
So you think about that. You got, and so I mean, we dealt with it in the same world with track and 12.6, right? So, but yeah, I'm not mad about baseball though. I'm glad
let me ask our baseball expert.
So my point, all my point is this is that you're adding 22 plus 20 on the men's side between baseball and football. So it's no surprise that men's track is getting hit as hard as it is, because the schools, when they're thinking about for-profit sports, baseball is profitable. Football is not.
No,
baseball's not.
It's not?
No, just keep talking. I will let you finish, and then we will get into that.
All right, go right ahead.
But before he goes in, I just want to make sure he answers this question if he can. He may not know the answer. How many conferences in Division I is baseball now mandated? Is it a mandated sport? Meaning you must fund baseball fully in this conference?
None. Baseball and track are the same. And okay. That's kind of always been my I don't know, issue, contention, whatever it is, right? Is that baseball's roster of 35 got 11.7, but the average track roster was 50 with 12.6. Right? Yeah. We all been shopping with EBT cards
absolutely
since its inception, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the difference has been twofold. One, baseball has always demanded they were included in the revenue sports group.
Yes.
Because they sell tickets and they make money. But they do not, under any circumstance, live in the black. They are not a money-making proposition.
Wow.
Okay, they are very similar to women's basketball. You sell tickets, so therefore you are a revenue sport because you generate revenue.
Right.
But that just offsets some portion of your monstrous budget. But we have
track and field's the same way. If you have a track team that hosts home meets, right?
100%. Right.
Yeah.
We have not. We've fallen for the we don't want to pay money for people to take money, so we're not going to charge money at track meets, right? But instead, the model we've done, Sir Lucious already spoke to, is like we have home track meets, we charge money, and so like that is quote unquote how we generate revenue. But we have never been allowed to have that revenue counted the same way baseball, women's basketball is. So we're not included in the revenue sports. So the reality is this: most schools almost every school in a Power 4 that has fielded baseball is going to go from 11.7 to at least 25. Most schools are going to go to 34 or 30, something along those lines, right? They're going to cover all of their bases because they have been the squeaky wheel for a very long time about how ridiculous it is that that baseball has been so vastly underfunded. We have probably...
And how many ADs out there are saying if you were successful with 11.6, if I double you should be fine? How many ADs are saying that, do you think?
What's crazy is that's what they all should be saying, But instead, most of them are saying, well, yeah, it's about time we finally can fund you guys the way we're supposed to. But it all comes down to, in a lot of cases, and look, this is a broad stroke, and I'm not going to make this assumption that it happens in every room, but I know for sure it happens in some athletic departments for sure. The athletic director likes, gets, understands, and probably has had a kid that played baseball. The athletic director doesn't necessarily understand, doesn't necessarily have a visceral attachment to track. So when it's like, I got this money and I got to spend it, they're more likely, and they're proving to be more likely to spend it on baseball faster, more prevalently than in track. It also speaks to how the governances work. The ABCA, the Association of Baseball Coaches of America, is a very strong, tight-knit, powerful group. And they have been successful in getting lots and lots and lots of rule changes across the board along the way. We're not going to beat this dead horse. We know what USTF, CCCA, and such are truly like, what their actual voting power and strength is like. And we also understand that we could not be ever described as a unified, forward-thinking, everybody on the same page group, right? So at the end of the day, baseball is going to get broad strokes. They're going to get treated better in this, everybody's getting raises, than track. But I would say this, clearly there are going to be some that are going to suffer mightily from this, but most track and field programs are going to be better off now than they were. The issue is going to be, what kind of stewards are those people with more funds? That's really what the issue is going to come down to, right? Because listen, the baseball teams that have been good with 11.7 are going to be as good, if not better, than they were with 34. And the baseball teams that were not good with 11.7 are now not about to become good because they got 34. Trust me. I think the same falls across the board in track and field. Are there going to be some teams whose CEO has just been being held short because of having 12.6 and now given 25, 20, 32, whatever they're going to get? Are they going to be better? Yes. But I think that group is going to be more of a unicorn than the norm.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay. Yeah, and I think what we have to do is, like with anything else, give it time, right? A lot of conjecture, a lot of thoughts, a lot of panic going on, and I think that just we gotta wait and see how it all shakes out. But just me, when it comes to the upper level, as Clyde talked about, I think it's going to be a lot of the status quo. It's going to be a lot of the same folks doing the same things they've done before. And if you're in that lower group and you have money, then you should probably be keeping a great eye on the portal at the end of indoor and at the end of outdoor season, because there's going to be a lot of people getting in the portal because they don't have roster spots at the bigger schools anymore.
Asterisk windows open.
Yep.
So anyhow, that's one branch of the legislation that's come out. We won't go super deep into I shouldn't say that. What are your thoughts on the revenue share piece?
I mean, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I've talked to people, and I mean, obviously football and basketball are going to be fine when it comes to the revenue share piece. And I just think, again, we have to wait and see what everybody else gets, if they get anything. I'm not sure that they will. But at the end of the day, we know the people that have to be taken care of in basketball and football are those people. So all I know is this, is that my life is a lot better when basketball and football are going well here on this campus. So
Exactly.
I want them to do whatever they got to do to take care of them. As long as we're okay, I'm okay with them
Right.
getting whatever they need to get. I'm fine with it.
Keep
Well,
us
the
afloat, but
revenue
let them
share
grow.
piece The revenue share piece is the most complicated piece, and it is the reason that this current thing known as the House settlement isn't settled yet. And without getting too far deep into it, you can talk about it in very simplistic terms. What's on the table is for the P4 that if the deal that's on the table gets signed, then the university is going to be responsible for $22 million above and beyond scholarships on every campus that must be doled out to the student athletes under the issue of revenue share. Great. The fight is at what split? Football gets 80%, basketball gets the next 10, and then everybody else gets the remainder. That is not Title IX compatible. And that's the problem. And the other side.
Well, I'm going to tell you this too. You're not correct about above and beyond scholarships, because the raising of the scholarship numbers, part of like up to $2 million of that can be counted towards the 22 million.
Well, that's another small little detail that people are still fighting over. But the original premise was scholarships are scholarships, and how much money do we have to split with them in revenue?
Well, I'm just telling you that based on
fine.
what's on the table now, if it goes through the way it is, $2 million of the scholarship increases can be used towards that 22 million.
And I'm sure that's what all the universities want, because that's easier to cut up. And that also helps solve part of the Title IX issue. But again, to be simple about it, one side of this said,
well, see, let me tell you this. See,
money, so they should get the majority of the money.
The problem with the whole Title IX issue is when it comes to revenue, is the fact that the women's sports aren't creating the revenue. So we're talking about a revenue share.
Correct.
Then they're going to have to show and prove that they're creating revenue. So the argument, the other side of that is whether it's Title IX compliant or not, based on people's thoughts. If you're not creating revenue, why do you get a revenue share?
And that is literally the basis of the legal fight that is going on. And there are people, important people, powerful people on both sides of that debate, and they have their lawyers and they're making their points. That's why it's not settled yet. That's what everybody's waiting.
We'll just have to wait. We'll table that one. We'll have to wait and see.
It's very interesting how the umbrella that this settlement is developed, all the funds that they are starting to put on, not starting, they're encompassing into it. And so the 22 million is large, don't get me wrong. But they're allowed to put a lot of alphabets under it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's chipping away at it. And I'm not saying that anybody deserves more or less or anything like that, but it's the construction.
Well, again, it's hard to give revenue or claim revenue for a sport that doesn't create any. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's no way that the women's basketball players are going to get the same amount of revenue the men's football guys does. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, let's not dive too much into that one. That's it.
What's been crazy to me about the whole thought process to all of this is that regardless of what any of us are talking about, prior to this settlement, there were only like 26 athletic departments in the country who were operating in the black. So I have been asking myself, if that many athletic departments have been operating in the red already, how are they supposed to come up with $22 additional million to pay student athletes? Right?
The answer.
Right. What it tells you is like there's been funny money dealings going on for forever anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because again, if there was only 24 or 25 athletic departments that were actually showing a profit as it was, if they're all giving more scholarship money, ain't no way that number got bigger than 25.
Well, see, but again, it's like, okay, so as Clyde alluded to earlier, there will be schools that will be bumping up some sports and even some the way they are cutting a little bit so they stay within their budget, right? So like if you're going to sit here and tell me that everybody's getting all the money, then that's a very viable question. But you'll be able to see once everybody starts announcing their numbers, mm-hmm. You're going to be able to see the 25 schools that were in the black are going to be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the 25, the beyond the 25 that are in the red, that's where you're going to see, because football and basketball are getting theirs. Don't trust me, football is getting 105 on any campus. And that's why the other ones are going to suffer that Clyde talked about.
And
That's
for the
going to happen.
record, the smaller conferences, G5 and below, the number's not going to be 22 million. It can be as low, it can be as low as a single digit
Yeah,
million,
it's
2
up
million,
to.
3 million.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
but still, it's all the same issue. If the governor's conference settles on a number that says they're opting into revenue share and their revenue share per campus is going to be $3 million, cool. Where's the 3 million going to come from?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all very, very interesting.
A piece that's not relevant to us per se, but it is relevant to the student athletes that I've been speaking to amongst the circles that I've talked to about it, is with this revenue share and NIL, right? Because that's dealing out. What they're now realizing, and this is what I've been talking about, is the tax repercussions of this, because that is counted as income. And so as much as we're selling it as, okay, well, now this is cash in hand without any quote unquote wheeling dealings of it. You don't have to have a GPA or you don't have units, things like that. But now you've become, and I'm not supposed to use this word, you've become, it's a source of income. I'm just going to say it that way. So those tax season comes and now you're filing taxes. You know, if you're a kid that's on financial aid or getting some type of aid, that now is affected. So
there's a lot of rabbit holes that you can run down in this situation. But again, I think, as I've said to my staff over and over again, let's just be patient. They'll give us a little bit at a time. I think, like with anything else that happens within the NCAA, a decision's made, and then a year or two later, it'll change some more. And it's an evolving process. It's going to be evolving for a while. And I think that, and this is a whole nother topic, that I think that this is going to lead to the separation of church and state. This is going to lead to the P4 being separate from the group of 5 and all that stuff. And honestly, it's probably going to be what's going to be needed to make it fair to everybody that's concerned.
Which is what people have wanted for a long time.
Exactly.
All right. So let's not lighten the load, a little bit lighten the load, because this one will be a little more visceral, I think. So with the new pieces of, not new pieces, commentary of Grand Slam track, Michael Johnson has come out and said he is not trying to save all of track and field. He's going to save what he knows, and that's track and field, what he knows he can, which is track and field.
Yeah, I think he said, no, he said,
track.
I'm going to save track. I don't think I can save track and field.
And field, yeah.
Yes,
Right.
let's quote him accurately,
Yes.
and step out of the way and let the hockey season go have this.
And so, and then there was the video with Tara and her husband, Hunter, right? And what they had to say about it. I've been on this for a while. I hear this a lot. We need to save track and field. Not sure why we need to be saved. Can we make it better? Absolutely. But saving, in my mind, implies that something is dying, implies that something is on its way out, it's going away. I don't see track and field being on its way out. I don't see track and field as dying. So if Michael wants to make the statement, I want to do something that's new and exciting that might help improve something, yes. But saving track and field, there's more money in track and field, way more money than when Michael was running, right? Way more money than when Carl was running. And it continues to be more money put into it at certain levels. So the whole saving thing that's a little much for me. It's a little much for me. And the sport is track and field. It's not track, it's track and field. So if you're going to do something to save the sport, you can't just save a portion of it. If you're really trying to save something, in my mind, I'm going to say make it better, then make the whole sport better. Don't just take a faction of it and go, we're going to do this. We give a crap about the other part of it.
Do you want us all to go before you, sir? Because I'm
just taking a breath. I'll go.
Listen, if you want to be last, you can go last.
I'm gonna say what I have to say.
Go ahead.
Let me start with this. You guys remember when you were kids, you went to the circus?
Never.
Really? You never went to the circus?
Neither.
That's a whole nother interesting thing. But anyway, when you went to the circus, and in particular Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, which was the biggest circus, right? It was always billed as a 3-ring circus because there were literally 3 different acts going on. And part of the reason it was that is because you wouldn't go and spend the money that you spent just to go see the lions. You wouldn't go and just to see the tigers. You wouldn't go just to see the clowns, right? Like you went to go see all of it. Track and field is an incredible product sold in its whole. Excuse me. I need to get serious here.
Yeah, I was hoping that was going to happen. I was hoping.
What Michael is attempting to do is puff his personal chest out as the savior and the Jeff Bezos of what needs to happen in the track and field world. And there are so many issues in that I can't unpack them all, but I'll just start with this. First of all, we all know Michael, and we know that Michael has never tried to do anything that was not self-aggrandizing first. 2, to Sir Lucious's point, just like Christopher Columbus didn't discover America because there was already people in South America where he landed, track doesn't need to be saved by anyone. Neither track nor field needs to be saved. Marketed better, yes. Unionized, for sure. Increase of financial revenue streams, absolutely. Saved as if it's on life support? No, not in any way, shape, or form. This is not boxing, right? Where there was UFC had literally come for boxing's life and was choking the sport out. There's nothing trying to take away from track and field. If anything, it should tell you in the 28 Olympics that track got moved to the front. It should tell you exactly where track and field really stands in the global pantheon of sports, right? We are no longer week 2. We've been moved to week 1. That's not by accident, folks. Look, at the end of the day, I get why Michael does some of the things he does, because clicking and creating internet buzz is all part of revenue growth in 2024. But what I'm not here for in any way, shape, or form is his kidnapping of the sport as if he is the savior and going to fly it off to some wonderful never land like he's Superman. There are so many holes in that thought if you're going to be using Grand Slam track and field, Grand Slam track and field as he's rolled it out as a savior. Like, there's so many holes in that. When it is in the season, how much juice it does or doesn't have on the World Athletics pantheon and schedule, how it folds into World Championships and Olympics. I could go on and on and on, right? Just say what you really mean, which is, I don't know nothing about the field. I don't have any links. I don't have any props. I don't know anybody that has a love for the field. So where I can get people to throw money at is going to be the arena that I used to be in, which is track. And I know track people, and I think track because I did track. I think track is way more important than field. Just say that. I would stand up and applaud Michael, because here's the funny thing. I went and sat down next to Michael and had a conversation with Michael at the trials. And I said, look, I get exactly what it is that you feel like you need to do, and I applaud you for it. I'm not going to be one of those people that hates and says, well, you should be throwing all your money towards the field events. That's not your job, right? If that's his influence and he can put some sort of financial influx of finances, definitely no better structure, right? So we're not being saved in any way, shape, or form from our real issues, right? But if he can put more money into some track people's pockets, that's awesome. But that's all it is. Let's just say that, right? Because at the end of the day, he's not saving anything. Nothing needs to be saved, but some more forward thoughts and some different ideas probably would be good to use in the sport of track and field. But I'll tell the rest of the world what I told Michael that day. If I don't like the words he's saying, then it is up to me and other people in the field event world to gather our thoughts, gather our own people who have interest in what we have interest in, and influx money into those event areas as well. Because here's what we all know. The sport of track and field is run by NGBs, not really by World Athletics. And the one we live, the United States NGB values a medal as a medal. Like when they want to win the medal count. Now, does TV think the men's 100 medal is more important than the women's shot put? Sure. But when they count the number of medals at the end of the Olympiad and USATF goes into the USOC and funds are allocated as to how we're going to fund and field these NGBs, they just count medals. Because if we're going to, I mean, let's just be honest. We spend the most money humanly possible on attempting to win the men's and women's 4x1s. And we're failing miserably at that, right? But a medal is still a medal is still a medal. So this whole idea of track and field needing to be saved, and by all people, by Michael Johnson, is insane.
So there's certain things in the world that, you know, I don't necessarily enjoy being right about. And when you go back and look at the history of what we've said on this show, when GST was first announced, my attitude, and I think the collective attitude of us all, were, hey, we hope it goes well, but we have some wait and see
questions.
some wait and see type of thing. My instinct was like, is this the right way, and are these the right people? I got to tell you, when I saw the comments of, saving, when I saw Michael Johnson put himself in the chair of savior of track, the first thing I thought is that comment sounded like it came from and belongs on Truth Social. It was very Trumpy. You alone can save it. You alone can save this thing that isn't even broken like you're claiming that it is. Like it's a wildly arrogant statement for him to make. And the audacity of it is off-putting, to say the least. Now, to be fair, I ain't like Tara Davis's comments and Hunter's either.
No, they don't speak for,
like
they don't
those
speak
either.
for me.
Didn't like those either.
Were
And
they
here's
trying to speak for you? Or were they just speaking for themselves?
No.
well, no, they did. They
I listened to that. I just heard two people voicing their opinions. What I heard.
well,
And in full transparency, saying almost exactly the same things that you guys are saying right now.
no, a lot of it was fine, but there was a part of it when, in essence, and I only saw it once, so I'm not going to try to quote it, but to paraphrase it, in essence, it was, we're good over here, us in the field. But no, Tara's good over there because Tara is well compensated. Tara is well taken care of. The vast majority of field event athletes are not good over there. They're not good over there at all. And those event areas are the ones.
Well, I'll have to go back and watch it because that's not what I heard. But I'm not saying that's
no,
not what she said.
that was in
That's-
there.
Yeah, I just felt like they were saying that track and field was good. That track and field didn't need to be saved. That's what I took from the conversation.
Yes, that part of it was in there, but there was a very specifically a part where she got into, that piece. And now I was like, hold on. That is you sitting from your perch. And again, those two individuals have done a lot of work and made a lot of money off the track on the internet, doing what they do, and props to them for that. But their reality is not the vast majority of the people who do what they do's reality. So I didn't like none of the comments across the board, but Michael's comments were offensive and arrogant in a way that is tough to see in this world. Like, there ain't too many people that would say things like that. And
well,
so
I mean,
I'm just
I don't
like,
know Michael that well. And I definitely don't know him well enough. I mean, obviously, as the EP does. I'm not gonna sit here and act as if that those comments aren't a bit arrogant because they are. When it's anytime you anoint yourself as somebody that needs to save something, then that's a little bit arrogant, in my opinion.
But what I'm saying is, the point that I want to get to, and you may obviously free to disagree, is the majority of people who care about our sport, that everybody I know is rooting for Grand Slam track to be successful. When you start stepping out and speaking that way, you're going to alienate people from rooting for your success, because that's a different level of thing. And I just I don't know what prompted him to say something like that. And I would say that he should steer clear of that kind of language and focus on.
Well, I mean, if the people that I've talked to that know Michael, and I'll say I've talked to the EP, he knows him a lot better than I do. I've had conversations with Mike, but at the end of the day, that's him. That's his persona, from what I've been told, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like anything else in life, he's entitled to his opinion. I just disagree with it, right? I'm not going to disparage the man's character. I'm not going to call him this, that, and the other. In his mind, I have conversations with people all the time about track needed being saved, and we have to change something, and we have to do this. That's what's the beauty of the world, is we all have different opinions, and we all voice them in different ways. And so my challenge to Mike would be, if you're really trying to save the sport, then save the whole sport. Don't just, I'm going to save track, can't save field. Because
there's no evidence that the sport is dying. There's zero.
That I said that from the beginning, like that. But again, I don't know Mike that well, but from the people I've talked to that know him, nobody that knows him well, including the EP, has said to me, "I cannot believe Mike said that." Not one person.
I mean, he has said things like that in the past as a commentator on television.
Okay. See, I
you know what I'm saying? So he's
I've never really seen him here.
To your point, look, like when Dion was a commentator, right? He was talking about a dude at the combine. There was a white kid that was running fast, right? He's like, "Oh, he fast, like for real." And they were like, well, "What do you mean by that, Dion?" And he was like, "I don't know what I mean." Right? Like, at the end of the day, like, Deion Sanders is going to be Deion Sanders. Like, Michael Johnson is going to be Michael Johnson. This should not surprise anyone, because this is completely on brand for who he is. And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way.
Maybe ask that. Okay, so the fact that he puts it out there that he's saving the sport brings a little bit more energy to the conversation for people, to the topic for people. It brings more attention to, who he's signing and all that stuff. So maybe it's a ploy. I don't know.
Well, that's why I started.
Maybe it's a marketing.
That's why I started with the comparison that I started with, because it is exactly that.
I think that it is, and again, what I don't want anybody to leave this show thinking is that I think it's a bad thing. Like, look, Michael lending his influence, right, to the sport of track and field, in particular to track, it is just not a bad thing. I don't necessarily like
He's one of the
all
icons of the sport, right?
I don't necessarily like all of the verbiage that comes out of his mouth, but at the end of the day, again, are we better because people are talking about the sport? Probably, right? Does that inspire Kareem and myself and, you know, 3 other people that we know to get together and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe
Why
it
only
does make
3,
me-
dog? Why could it be 5?
It's a small table.
The small table. There you go.
You know, your circle got to be small. But you know what I'm saying? Like, does it inspire people in the field events to come together, feel like we've been compartmentalized, and figure out how to, you know, to strengthen the infrastructure financially of the field events? Maybe, right? Because and we're not going to talk about this topic, I don't think, but like, if you just look at the list of events that came out in the, you know, for the ultimate championship, it will tell you part of the issue in the field events is not money. That is an issue. But the bigger issue in the field events is voice. There are too many people who are speaking for the field events who don't do nor understand the field events. That's a bigger problem, right? And so I keep trying to challenge people to, like, stop reacting to Michael in that way. React to what the reality is. Our sport and our product is no worse than it ever was. In many ways, it is better. We are not dying. We are just getting passed financially by other sports because the packaging hasn't changed. Every great company at some level has to have a conversation about whether they need to rebrand, right? Like, I remember when Denny's changed their logo. It's the same damn Denny's, same racist people that work there.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's. All right.
Yep.
That's enough. That's enough.
Turn it back.
You're not wrong.
No.
You're not wrong, sir.
Again, I'm not saying
No.
anything not
No.
true.
Now we're gonna start
Anyway.
Don't
disparaging
mess with
Denny's.
my hammy mammy, okay?
Exactly. Leave Denny's out of this, bro.
Just
Leave
stop
Denny's
eating
out
there.
of this.
Here's what I'm saying.
So
I didn't stop eating
anyway,
there.
like, I think when you look at this in totality, I think Michael's idea and what he's trying to do is great in the concept that he's trying to bring more attention to the sport. I think the issue that most of us have with him is he thinks he's saving the sport. And I think whether you know him or not, whether you understand it or not, it does sound very arrogant, as Clyde said. And I think for me, like, so then here's the challenge. So then let's find a way to get together and do this for the field events. You know?
Well,
there you go.
It's
Let's
for
take
me,
the challenge, right?
it's
Yeah.
pretty simple. When you think about Mike's journey from competing to finding his footing in England on British TV, and he's been given this voice, and he's been given the latitude to say whatever he wants. He's been given the whatever he wants. So when you're in that space where you're pretty much protected, right? You're pretty much, you know, given carte blanche. Let's go ahead and be the figure that we think you are. Go ahead and be you. Of course, you're going to get to this point where he's saying things that are pretty far left, right? And anyone that could fix their face to say, I can save track, but I don't know if I can save track and field. And I'm going, that's wild. That is really, really wild. So I think it's obvious that we're at this precipice now where the field events, collectively are going to have to find a way Not for the top kids, not for the top athletes that are going and competing. I'm talking about the general population of pros, semi-pros, whatever you want to call it. There is going to have to be some things done in order to sustain themselves. And it's going to take some thinking. It's going to take some planning. And I feel like as an athlete from 20 years ago, there were competitions I went to that were just focused on field events, and they were successful. So it isn't like it can't be done. It just has to be organized, And so we need to stop talking about it and just get it done, because it can be done.
There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, like I'm not trying to belabor this point, but so much of this is about voice. It's not about money will come
Mm-hmm.
with better voices, right? Because the voice is the packaging. Look, we'll take the WNBA as a perfect example. The product isn't any different than it was 2 years ago. It just isn't. The product isn't any different than it was 2 years ago, right? But now they no longer fly commercial, and they got a salary bump. They just decline, like they just opted out of their CBA, so they're going to renegotiate.
Yep. Get a bigger share,
right?
Yep.
To get a bigger share. Now, what they're asking for, they will never get, but they will get a bigger share than they were, right? But again, I'm going to say this: but they're not any better. The product isn't any better. None of that is true, right? They are still hemorrhaging money as a league, and they will continue to do so. But at the end of the day, they got a better voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The packaging was better. It was cooler to be around.
Yeah.
If we package track and field properly, it would be cooler than a lot of things that currently are getting paid money.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to package it better. Our voices have to be, they have to be toned better on the sport, on individual events, on all of it. And one of the things we really got to stop doing is allowing people to run with all the negative narratives that we do by self-policing. We have the strictest drug protocol pretty much of any sport out there, but we talk about our drug negatives way more than we do about our positive people. They're a bigger story, right? And so at the end of the day, this is again about voices and controlling of narratives. The product itself is really good. It just has to be packaged better.
Agreed.
Well, we shall see as well to see how this unfolds before the actual start of and its wheels actually moving.
Can I throw a question to everybody in relation to Grand Slam track?
Sure.
It came out yesterday, that they have acquired Gabby Thomas, which is undoubtedly a good thing. But it seems that they have acquired her differently than everybody else. It seems that at least the two things that I saw that were written the way they were written were that she signed on for the 2025 season, and that's it. Where everybody else is, these 2-year contracts.
2-year contracts, yeah.
Is signing somebody of that status and holding them to a different standard than everybody else, is that good business? Is that
It's great business.
okay?
It's great business because you got one of the biggest stars in the sport, and she did it on her terms. So it's a win-win. She did it on her terms, and he gets a big name for a year. It's a win-win.
But
I'd also like to see if Sid's contract looks like everybody else's. Because I feel like it doesn't.
This is my point, and plays into the narrative about professionalism in our game, right? The whole GST pitch is this is professional. This is professional. So if you step out and say, here in our professional world, it's going to be done this way for everybody, and then you start immediately before one race has gone off making special rules and special carve-outs for special people. Because last I checked, everybody on the GST list is supposed to be world-class elite. Half of them got medals. There's world champs in there. There's Olympic champs in there. And now you're creating specific carve-outs. I mean, wasn't one of the tenets of GST that you couldn't participate in athlos. So like there's just a lot of messiness in there to me.
What I will say to you is this: is that to come out and make a statement in the original stages of something, when you try to build something and try to puff your chest out and say something, versus when you get to the nuts and bolts of it and you're really trying to build what you're trying to build. I will use a quote that a former head coach of mine said. I will treat everybody in this room fairly, but you will not be treated equally. Will not. You know, what you do and how you do and what you do will determine how well you are treated. So don't be a guy that's not contributing, expected to be treated like the guy who is. And so in this case, the lower level sprinter is not going to be treated the same way Gabby Thomas is. It's just not going to happen. So whoever came out and said it in the beginning was that was a very bad statement to begin with.
At the end of the day, that is part of professionalism. Like, look,
Exactly.
I'll use an obvious one, right? The 1992 men's basketball team, the Dream Team, the original one, right? It's the assemblage of the Avengers, right? But there were still levels to that. And when they won the gold medal, I don't know if you remember this, but when they won the gold medal, the Converse had bought the parade uniform, right? And clearly Michael was not about to be in any logo but a swoosh or a jump man. That just wasn't going to happen. And so there were all these machinations about what was going to happen. Michael he even went so far as to say, like, they can get the medals without me. And so, we can't do that. So what did they do? They threw an American flag over Michael's shoulder to cover up the logo. Everybody took the picture, and we move on. It's a non-story. Because at the end of the day, to Sir Lucious's point, you have to treat everybody fairly, but it's asinine to think you're ever going to treat everybody the same. And you can't get it done that way.
Listen, I agree. Then don't say that.
Sure, but again, that's part of business too, right? I wouldn't do it because I agree with you. You have to be careful what you say. It's like when you're writing up rules for your team.
Yes.
Gotta give yourself wiggle room.
Right? You got to give yourself loopholes. You got to give yourself wiggle room. So yeah, I mean, again, this is Michael's first attempt at any of this. When he said that, there was probably somebody behind him in the PR department, like,
Please believe.
You said it, we can't walk it back, but I'm just telling you that's not quite how it's going to go down.
Please believe. If I'm on that list right now and I got a gold medal around my neck, I'm picking up the phone, like, yo, this 2-year thing, I want to renegotiate.
And I would tell you, if I was on the other end of that phone call, you can be in or you can be out.
That's what's going to happen.
And the only reason I say that is because
Thomas.
I got Gabby, right? I don't need you. Again, this is the cutthroat nature of business that I don't always like, but these conversations happen.
They do.
Governor, did you have 2 cents?
No, I think everybody has said what I wanted to say. I mean, I'd be piling on at this point.
I want to say for the record, the governor knows MJ probably better than I
do. That's why I had to open the floor for a second.
It's not surprising. Let's just leave it there.
It's just not.
No.
Got it. Well, last topic for the day. We've been talking about this long training season, and we've talked about how long it is, but how are we towing the line? How are we approaching it? How are we going to accomplish it? How do we do it successfully, or what we deem as successfully?
So the scenario that I had used was, what if you have an NCAA athlete, and this is very, very pinpointed to an NCAA athlete that has the ability to score at the national meet, indoor and outdoor, and has the ability to make it to the World Championships, has the ability to make it to Worlds. how would you navigate this year, this upcoming season?
The engagement.
Yes. And how would you navigate the training? And how are you picking your spots? You know, so I wrote out a certain amount of dates to kind of give me an idea of the spacing. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, do you want me to say it or do we?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay. So you have NCAA's March 14th, 15th. You have preliminaries, NCAA preliminary, May 28th, 31st. NCAA's outdoors, June 11th, 14th. USA Championships, July 31st, August 3rd. World Championships, September 13th to the 21st. So how are we getting an athlete from point A to point B?
If you'd like to share your email address with me, I'll send you the plan from Grant for 2019.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not sending that to everybody, but I will send it to you. So
yeah. Well,
I think
my question to you specifically, Sir
Okay.
Lucious, would be with the trials being that late.
Well, I'd say that the trials
Yeah.
were just a couple of weeks before then. You
Mhm.
know, if I remember correctly, it wasn't right after NCAAs like it had been in the past.
Mhm.
I think the big thing is, man, it's like you can't. I think if you're panicking and trying to make sure they're ready for Worlds, then you're not going to get anything out of the regular season, right?
Mhm.
Not what you want anyway, right?
Mhm.
So I think it comes down to proper training model. It comes down to a proper racing model.
Mhm.
Like if you recall that year, like Grant would go to a track meet, take one long jump. You know, like
Mm.
we went to TCU that year, like you get one jump, right? I
Like
need you to come down
literally
here and jump 8
one
minutes.
jump.
One jump and you're done, right? You know,
Wow.
we would go to a track meet and you're going to run the 4x1. That's it. You know, we ran the 4x4 sparingly. So I think it's a matter of the training model, it's a matter of the racing model, it's a matter of the recovery is the biggest part of that for me. And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about recovery between the championships. I'm talking about recovery within the training sessions, within the training model. Like, you know, I don't know, this is the level where the macro and mesocycles and all that stuff
Mhm.
that you guys
Mhm.
use. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know what one of those is, but you know, the recovery within that stuff is what becomes monstrous, right?
Mhm.
And also understanding that for us, because our conference meet is such a high energy, high intensity deal, the NCAA meet is obviously that.
Yeah.
So finding ways to not just recover physically, but mentally from those challenges. And, you know, the recovery immediately after the NCAA meet is the big part of it, because that is the biggest mental challenge of the championship season.
Mhm.
And then in that case, you know, we came off of that and Grant was at an incredible high, but like we had to manage that mentally. You
Yeah.
know, it was tough.
So we all know, I think at this stage, we all know how to get a kid to June. The issue, I think, for a lot of coaches is there's a 6-week period between NCAA's and USA's, and then there's a 6-week period between USA's and Worlds, right? So
I had
go ahead.
I had 2 words for this.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is one of those answers where I'm not speaking about myself. I'm offering what I believe is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
One of my 2 words has already been taken, recovery.
Right.
The other word was reality. And the reality that I think a lot of athletes who are in these positions are going to face, and a lot of coaches are not going to own yet, is reality is a lot of people are going to err on the side of the business that we're paying you for. Hey,
Which they
I'm spending
should.
money on you to be
Mm-hmm.
an NCAA athlete and be damned about the worlds. I don't really care. Now, that is not Clyde nor Charles Ryan's attitude. But I think that is the majority are going to end up in that space. Maybe it's out of selfishness. Maybe it's out of ignorance. Maybe it's out of fear. Maybe the coaches are going to say, like, you know what? I don't even know how to manage that anyway, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. We're gonna get this dub at the NCAAs, and then whatever happens after that, kid, you figure it
But
out.
so I
Like,
will say this in relationship to that. I'm gonna disagree with you
you're gonna be
because no, not just me, but the people that I know that I work with, my colleagues in this profession who have these athletes have always done a good job of managing these situations. Very few times have you seen the situation just totally blow up. Now, a couple of them miss. You know, we get that, right? A couple of them do. But at the end of the day, most of us get it right. Right?
I guess I'm speaking to the more so the attitude of it. I
Well, that's
think
what I'm speaking to too. That's why I think you're wrong, because
okay.
if you have an athlete that can get to that level, like as an NCAA coach, and I'll speak from before I started before I had athletes get there, right? When you're an NCAA coach and you're doing what you're doing, and you know, whether it was back in the beginning, like I said, say John Capel, somebody, right? Like you thought about that, and you wanted to make sure that you gave that said athlete the opportunity to be successful at the USA's and at the world. So while you wanted that athlete to be successful and do your job at the NCAA level, there's a bit, well, for me anyway, and for my colleagues that I believe feel the same way, there's this, we want you to be successful throughout if you're capable. Now, if you got a guy that's 45-5 guy, his chances might not be as great. Right? So your mindset might not be as great with that guy. But if it's the 44-2 guy, if it's the 9-9 guy, if it's the 49-second girl, if it's the 12-5 hurdle girl, your mindset becomes that of, you know, you can make this team. We're going to make sure that when the time comes, the bullets are in the chamber for you to do so.
So can I jump in right there? Because that is actually where I was going to start. Every gun has a limited number of bullets, right? Some have 17, some have 5. But at the end of the day, there are so many bullets in the chamber. There's so many bullets capable of being used. And unlike in movies, you don't have guns that just never stop running out of bullets. I think it's important to work from the end backwards, to work from the end goal backwards. Whoever this young person you have, be it male or female, whatever the agreed upon ultimate goal is, I think if you work everything else backwards and understand that you need to be able to fire at this place, this place, this place, and this place, I think that makes all other decisions make sense, right? Like you can't come out the box at the Seminole relays and run 995 and also expect to be able to run whatever it is that you think you're going to run in September, right? Without a plan. Maybe that is part of the plan, but all of it has to be planned out and stuck to. I think one of the biggest things that people who will mess this up, the biggest issues they will have is not trusting the plan that they set forth in a calm setting. You know, they were sitting down and not stressed when they wrote out the plan, right? But when pressure gets applied to you and you have different stimuli, you can't deviate from the plan. And I think that's where people will get themselves in trouble. You can't panic in getting your athlete qualified for the national meet, because if they're good enough that we're talking about them in September, qualifying for the first round should be well within their protocol. Getting out of the first round should be well within their protocol. Now, easy? No. Under load? Yes. Right? Should that person be able to unload to attempt to win a national championship and come back and be ready to go at the highest level 6 weeks later? Yes. Do you have to know what you're doing and have to plan that out and actually have to build in rest after the first thing and not, well, the shoe company wants to sign them, so they're going to go over to Oslo immediately. Yeah, you can't do that. Right? You can't mess up the plan. 6 weeks is plenty of time to do almost anything in track and field, right? If I told you had to have somebody ready to fire, and then 6 weeks later ready to fire, and then 6 weeks later ready to fire, every single person on this panel is like, "Yep, got that." And honestly, if Coach X doesn't have that part, we can't help them yet. They have to learn that. I don't know if that's making any sense. Because the reality is
that makes perfect sense.
From the outdoor perspective, that's what we're talking about, right? Like, you got to be ready to go at NCAAs, and then 6 weeks later, USAs, assuming they're American, and 6 weeks later, the trials or whatever it is that you're doing at in China. Yeah, we're going to China.
Tokyo.
Oh, we're going to Japan. We're going to China indoors.
Listen,
Right?
I'm the petty cynic, right? Like, that's me. If in the past there were 50 people in our profession, and by our profession I mean NCAA coaches, if there were 50 people in our profession that wanted to care about their athletes beyond the NCAA season, and of that 50, 20 were good at it, I think that the 20 will still be good at it, but I think that the reality of the new schedule, at least in year one, is going to be that significantly less people in our profession will actually care to entertain those results. I'm the cynic. That's cool. I could be accused of being cynical. I am cynical. But when the world championships are literally happening while classes are going on in the fall, I do not believe that everybody that cared about it a year ago is going to care about it now. I just don't believe that.
So for a point of reference,
I would love to be pleasantly surprised.
So point of reference, and you know me, I had to go digging. And 21 days till hockey season pointed this out when we talked about this. So the last time we've had a major meet like this late was the 2000 Olympics, right? And I went through the entire USA team, and I believe there were literally only two collegiates.
Monique Henderson and who?
Dwight Phillips.
Dwight Phillips. There you go.
All right. I don't know if if that was his last year as well, but I think it was Savant. But my point is that on paper, on that team, there were literally two coaches or three coaches, if you include Savante, that were able to get their athletes through that gauntlet. They both.
There were only three collegians on the team, or three collegians that medaled
on the team.
Okay.
And I'm going.
Melvin Lister is in that group. Yeah, that was his last year at Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, that's I think for Dwight that was his last year as well. But still, I mean,
ASU, yeah, because I know Dwight was in college, because I remember Dwight he ran on their 4x. I think he might have led off their 4x1 at Arizona State that year.
Yeah,
that was Duke, right?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that team being an older, more mature, professional team.
But here's the bigger stat. It's not about when the Olympics were. Where were the trials in relationship to the NCAA championships? That's the bigger question right there.
And the trials were much closer to the NCAA championship that year than these trials will be.
And that's probably where the problem is.
That's where the problem is. Okay. All right.
I would think anyway. But we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think that, again, as I love to say, those who can will, those who can't won't. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and I like here. Look, I know I'm going to probably sound like the elitist in this group, which is crazy. But when I say this,
Oh, really?
not. I mean, here's a news flash that we all know, right? Not everybody that's in college who qualifies for USA's needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Totally
unnecessary
has become,
comment, sir. Unnecessary.
Oh, but that.
Why is it no? I didn't mean that.
Unnecessary.
Why is it
No, but wait a minute. No,
Why-
that's
why is
literally
it
the conversation we're having.
No, it's
literally
not.
the conversation
The
we're having.
conversation is qualifying for the World Olympics off a collegiate season when it's
Yes.
law.
That's
Tell
right.
him person that-
No.
Okay.
Look, the governor asked the question,
Yes.
right? He asked the question, like, how do we get this person
That has
these people
nothing
that?
to do with them not needing to go to the meet. That's
No,
not
but
what
no,
he
but wait a
asked.
minute. Wait a minute.
It
Wait a
does
minute.
to
Terrible.
me.
Yeah,
Part of it
absolutely
was
does.
reality.
Okay, first of all, we got the
Clyde said
cynic and the
reality.
elitist all on the same page right now.
I said
Listen.
reality. I said reality.
Hold on a second,
That's
but we were not
from an
discussing
American
that
perspective.
reality. We
All
were
right,
that was
discussing
my
right.
biggest
how do
point.
you get the people to it? That's what we're
No,
discussing.
got-
See, you trying to do a training question. I
I'm
wasn't
not.
asking a
I'm
training
not.
question.
So
I
I
ain't
got
talking about training.
an
Governor got
answer.
some information
I
for us
got
because
the
y'all are
answer.
tripping.
So 2000, Sacramento, California, July 14th to the 23rd. So it was literally 1 week
Oh.
before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
1
And
week
So there
before.
was a separation.
Right.
This
There
is
was
the
a bit
issue.
of yep.
From an NCAA perspective, of an NCAA American athlete perspective,
Yeah.
if 100 kids have the standard to go to wherever it's going to be, Eugene, and try to make Team USA, last year maybe 90 of them go.
Mhm.
This year, I'm telling you, there's going to be 30 people there.
Okay,
The
see that, but
ain't
that
gonna
wasn't that
do it.
wasn't that. But see, that wasn't that dude, the hockey dude's comment.
But that was my reality comment.
That is my comment.
Your comment was they don't need to go.
Yeah.
Not
No.
that they
I
would.
think they do. I think the coaches are going to kibosh it.
21
Like,
days was a
Bam,
bit
all that.
too
Okay,
real.
so the
you
cynic
you
is
came
saying
a
something
little
totally
bit
different
too
than the
real
elite.
with it. A little bit.
Exactly. Like okay, I'm gonna agree with the cynic on this one. There's gonna be some coaches like, hey, I'm out. I'm not waiting that long.
we know the Gators are going to
Exactly.
go.
But
We know
okay,
the Gators going.
but the elitists on this panel said they don't belong there.
They don't belong.
That's not what I said. I didn't say they didn't belong there. This is all I'm saying is this. Okay, look, I'm not gonna round the edges. I'm gonna say it the way I want to say it. Listen, if I was a college coach, right, and I had a sophomore in college who qualified for USA's, right, and they take 32 in the event, and I'm looking at the list, and he or she is 28th. You know what we're not gonna do? Go to USA's during school. Now, if there's that list of 32, he or she is 16th, we are absolutely going to go do that. Because to my point, he or she has got a college season that is important to both of us on the back end, and the risk reward is out of balance. So that person literally does not need to go to USA's. If that person is in the top 16, then they are a viable option if they're good and I can coach myself and I can coach to where they might make the team. Absolutely, then the risk reward is correct.
So,
But so when I say that they don't need to go there, I don't, because again, if you're a sophomore and you're coming back to school, you're gonna have that chance next year.
right, okay, I really think that was extremely well stated and beautifully spun to come back from the elitist comment that you made the first time. I really like the way you circled the wagons and came back and tried to sound like you were trying to be nice to people.
boy.
That was really,
You know what?
that was, you know what?
Who cares?
Your Cal degree showed up big there. It
Sir
did.
Lucious, I'm going to speak for everybody in the country. It is so nice to have you back. That's all I'm going to say.
That was terrible. At least Clyde just said, I'm a cynic and I'm going to be a cynic. You were an elitist at one point and then tried to come back and be nice to everybody.
Listen, I think both of my comments are equally level elite. At the end of the day,
everybody that much.
Look, at the end of the day, look, this goes back to our first topic of the day. Not everybody needs to be doing college track either.
Oh, here we go. I'm done. I'm done.
And
You kicked the
listen,
governor off when you said that.
I'll help the EP. I'll put a cherry on it. Just in a, in a majority, small world environment. To his point, a year ago, if I have kid X, me, small people, if I got kid X qualified for USA's, I could easily walk into the boss's office and be like, hey man, we need to spend a little bit of money to keep this kid around for 2 more weeks and represent, the school at USA's. Sometimes I get some pushback, but I can make that argument. Now, that kid could literally be top 8 going into USA's, and I'm gonna have to have a lawyer and a presentation to explain why they need to kick it for 6 weeks on our dime to go to USA's. Like that is a tough sell. And that's why I'm a cynic about who's going to be willing to fight those battles.
Well, I think I personally think, me being one of them, more college coaches are a little more versed as to how potentially to get that student athlete there. And if not, they have more friends who are versed enough. So I think the potential of it is good. The actual action itself is the question, and the ability is the question. So,
And I will say this, and as coaches in the coaching community, I think we would all agree about this. There's a different level of intensity required to make the Olympic team versus the World Championship team. So using the 2000 Olympics was a great example, but a poor example in that the intensity won't be the same because it's the World Championship versus the Olympics.
Very, very
That's
true.
true.
And very well said.
Yes. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and count our wins there with Sir Lucious's much desired and anticipated 2 cents. So we won't get too long-winded. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We hope you enjoyed your holiday. Enjoy all the shopping that you care to do online or in person this weekend. But other than that, we'll see you in about a week. Bye, everyone.